again. This is question 2 for exam 2 of the study guide of exam 2 study guide series. Amanda here, and I'm ready to answer question 2. So, question 2, for those of you who don't know, is we know that silent reading is the best reading students can do in the during reading phase of guided reading because they can read independently using different strategies such as sounding out words they don't know, rereading, looking at the picture, slowing down, or speeding up. However, even with guided reading, sometimes students have to read texts that are difficult for them. List and describe the different levels of support teachers can give to students who struggle to read the text. So, luckily, this my professor was kind enough to give us all the different strategies that teachers use to help students. So now I'm just here to explain each and every one of them and how they are important. So, what teachers use? So the first one that we have here is teacher-student reading. So, actually on the paper it's called teacher followed by student reading. So this is literally where the teacher is physically reading with the student. So this could be the teacher might read a sentence and the student will read after him or her. Or the teacher will read one sentence and the student reads the other. But this is literally the teacher is there to help the student. And this is and this strategy is perfect for students who maybe are reading at a kindergarten level. Maybe they're EL students, so the language is not easy for them to process. So they need the actual teacher to be there to read with them and to guide them with different words and how to process the different words. But that is kind of what this strategy is. The teacher-student reading together is literally that. The teacher and the student are reading with one another. And so this one, I believe, would be super number 1, first important. Sorry, you probably can't see it, but it says first. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. Sorry. I'm looking at my notes here, just making sure that I'm reading this correctly. So actually, I'm not even going to label these. I don't know why I'm labeling them. So I do believe they're already in order from, where are they? From most support to least. Oh, okay, sorry. So when it's so in the study guide, if you guys have a study guide or not, on my study guide it's saying from most support to least. It's talking about who's giving the most support. Is the teacher there with the students the whole time, or are the students a little more by themselves? So in this case, yes, teacher is giving them a lot of support. Obviously, it's called teacher reading followed by student reading on my page. So that's definitely a lot of support from the teacher. Repeated reading. So what does repeated reading look like? So this could be one of two things. When I think of repeated reading, I think of literally they're rereading the story over again. This is probably good for like younger grades, like kindergarten, first grade, where they're still on picture books and they need to reread that story over and over and over again. So that's kind of what repeated reading is for younger grades. Repeated reading in older grades, that one's a little tricky because one, they're older, so they're supposed to do a little more independent reading on their own. However, sometimes when I think of repeated reading, I think of maybe they're rereading a chapter, or they're rereading a paragraph again, or rereading an article. But that's kind of what essentially repeated reading is they're rereading whatever it is they just read. And they're rereading it with the teacher. So the teacher read it to them once, and she read it again, and she's reading it again. That's kind of why, like, you see in some, like, kindergarten, preschool activities, they're reading the same story for a whole week. And they've already read the entire story on the first day, but they're rereading it again. So that's kind of what repeated reading is. Echo reading. Echo reading is, that one's actually kind of fun, and you might be familiar with it if you've done it before. But echo reading is where the teacher reads first, and then the students reread what she just read. So, for instance, if I was given a sentence that said, the dog jumped over the fence. First, it would be Miss Fernandez is going to read it, and then you're going to read the sentence right after me. So I would read first. So me as the teacher, I would read first. The dog jumped over the fence. Then I would say, okay, class, now it's your turn to read. And I would point to the sentence, and they would then go, the dog jumped over the fence. But as a class this time. So the entire class is reading after the teacher. So that's echoed reading. And again, the first three, if I were to label these, the first three I would say definitely made for younger grades. Especially these two right here. These two definitely. This one I think you can alternate between younger grades and older grades depending on the reading level. But definitely these two is more for younger grades as well. Repeated reading and echo reading, definitely you'll see a lot of that in the younger grades than you would in the older grades. So definitely from preschool to maybe second grade, depending on the books that the second graders are reading at that point. You will definitely see these two most common. And this one I would say definitely younger grades, and sometimes older grades depending on the grade levels. So this definitely depends on grade levels. It depends on grade level. So I just put GL. So that depends on grade level. Next one, alternative paragraph / page reading. This is more for older students. So older students, you definitely see the alternative paragraph / page reading. So for example, in my third grade class, I see a lot of this alternative, where the students will read one page or chapter, depending on how big the chapters are. Sometimes they're brave and they want to read the whole chapter, which I allow them to. I'm like, if you want to read the entire chapter, you go right ahead. You read the entire chapter. This one I try to switch amongst the students, again, depending on the grade level they're in. If, our reading grade level, sorry, not grade, well, also grade level too, but reading grade level wise, if I know the students well that they don't need me to guide them with reading, then I will allow them to read on their own. Again, with COVID and being so far away from them and face to face, it's kind of hard because sometimes the students you really want them to read aloud, they're unable to because of the background noise and stuff, or they got or they're just refusing to read, and there's really not much that you can do with that. But definitely in the classroom, alternative paragraph / page reading, you see that a lot. You might be familiar with like popcorn reading, although my professor, he's kind of against that, or he says try to avoid popcorn reading. I thought popcorn reading was fun when in the classroom, although I do see the issue with that because sometimes with the popcorn reading, the same students tend to get called on first. So the students who really want to read, they can't, or sometimes the students get embarrassed when they're being signaled out. So I definitely understand why popcorn reading kind of has mixed emotions about that. But alternative paragraph / page reading is definitely one that's more common in the older grades. And what that looks like, sorry, I don't even think I've explained what that actually looks like. It's, or maybe I did. It's student will read first, and then maybe teacher might read, and then maybe another student reads, and then maybe another student reads, and then teacher reads again. But essentially, you're alternating who is reading. And try to get enthusiastic when you're reading too as a teacher. When there's dialogue in the story, try to match with the character's voice how you think they might sound like, just to make it fun. And try to keep it as exciting as possible when reading. But yeah, alternative reading, you definitely see that mostly in older students. But you can definitely try doing alternative reading as well in the younger grades. So like, if you guys are doing like a picture book and you've practiced with the students for a couple days reading the story over and over and over again, you could try it. Like with the kindergarten grades or first graders, you can definitely try it. Teacher will read first, and then maybe call on a student who wants to read, have them read, and then call on another student, have them read. I don't know how well that would work though in younger grades. That's why I kind of made the note that you see this mostly in older grades. But that's kind of where the teacher's kind of stepping back. She or he's not really as involved with the reading, but is there to guide. So this is definitely them kind of letting go a little bit and letting the students be a little more independent away from the teacher. And then last but not least, in the for this question, the professor gave us buddy reading. Buddy reading is actually really fun. That's definitely one where the teacher's not as involved. Students are obviously in partners, and the way I would do it is I would first partner students who maybe don't have as strong of a reading skill with the student who might be more advanced in reading level wise, and pair them up together. That way the student is kind of like a peer teacher almost, or peer tutor, I believe that's what it's called, to the other students. And they probably don't feel as threatened when a friend in the class is trying to help them sound out words. So probably not as embarrassed when it comes to reading with buddies during the buddy readings. So this is definitely good for them when it comes to when it comes to reading on their own. This is definitely one where the teacher kind of takes a step back, isn't as involved with the reading, or at least not as involved like small group guiding them. It's now the students are guiding each other. So that's that for that one. Sorry, that was a lot of that's in that sentence. And then one more note that I actually put in here was there's a strategy that I actually have to thank my mom that she kind of got help from when she was homeschooling my brother, was highlighting periods or punctuation marks at the end of sentences. And that's mostly focusing on like fluency and or speed when it comes to reading, because I think one of the things that we sometimes forget, that I definitely forget, is that students really don't understand the purpose of exclamation marks, or not exclamation marks, but punctuation marks, unless like you're talking about grammar. So like at the end of the sentence, you're supposed to slightly pause, when you're reading, or you're gonna continuously read until you almost pass out because you haven't breathed. So, something that my mom helped my brother out, because he has ADHD, so he doesn't slow down. He will speed through reading so fast, but he won't comprehend anything. So one of the things that my mom did was she had my brother take a book that he was interested in, that he was reading, and before he would start a chapter, he would go in and he would highlight every single one of the punctuation marks. Mostly it was like the periods, because he was definitely struggling with that part. Just regular sentences with the periods, but you can do this with any punctuation marks too. But when he would highlight all in yellow or all in pink, all the periods, he knew that based on that, when he sees that color highlighted on the period, he needs to pause at the end of the sentence. So instead of going, once upon a time there was a prince, and the prince went to the store, and the store went to the, and instead of doing run-on sentences forever and ever and ever, he would go, once upon a time there was a prince. Pause. The prince was going to the store. Period. Pause. The store was the prince's favorite shoe store. And then period. Something like that. I just made that up. But that's essentially what that strategy my mom managed to find out on her own what was for my brother, was to help him slow down. One, so he had better fluency when he was reading, so he wasn't, just reading run-on sentences. But two, it sort of helped him comprehend a little better because he was forced to slow down. Although he still kind of struggles with comprehension sometimes, but it did help him with his reading fluency. So he's definitely a lot better with reading. So you can definitely use this strategy for students who maybe they are reading too fast. And when they read too fast and they get done with whatever they read, they don't comprehend what they read because they read so fast. They didn't stop and go, okay, pause, next sentence, pause, next sentence, pause. And I know some people are like, well, now you're just making the students read at a slower level. I know, but at the end of the day, they'll at least know what they read. Now, I understand though, like, maybe there is concerns, like, well, what if they're reading too slow? Obviously, you can adjust. But this is just one strategy that I thought was very helpful for students who kind of like my brother. They don't know when to slow down or how to slow down. So that's just something that I thought maybe it could be helpful. I don't know for sure if all teachers use it or not, but I thought, you know what? I think this might be a little helpful for just an extra tip when it comes to different during reading, helping students with the guided reading. So this was question 2. Hopefully I answered the entire question and I gave you hopefully great information. Other than that, this was part 2 of the study guide series for exam 2, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Goodbye.